I fired these two pieces right here, and of course this was the first piece that I molded, and it's a little thin, so I did another one, and that's the one I put my handle on. And after firing the bisque, it did shrink just a little. You can't hardly tell. If you were here in person, you could tell that this one is just a little bit smaller than this one. This is one that I cast last night for comparison. I'll put a handle on it a little later. So what I'm going to do now is put glaze on these and fire them right quick, and we will see what they look like after we fire them, and then we'll wind up this video. Let me show you what I'm firing these in. I am actually doing two experiments at one time. Doing this one on the coffee cups, molding the coffee cups, and I've been working on my little bitty kiln. So let me show you what it looks like. Okay, this is my small kiln, and up at the very top you see the little white box. That is the controller that I've been working on. And just for grins and giggles, I thought I would tell you about it. I'm working on another one when I get it together that will have soak and ramp. This one just goes up to whatever the temperature is I want it to go to, and it holds. But that's the little kiln that I've been experimenting with, because I can go to 1700 degrees or 1830 Fahrenheit in about an hour or less. So this is what I'm experimenting with, and that's what I'm bisquing, and I'm going to glaze the cups in. So let's get to the glazing of the cups, and I'll be back to you when they are glazed. Well, I managed to get the two pieces that we've been working on for this video out of the kiln today, and here's that little thin piece. And the reason I went ahead and completed this thin piece was because it was thin. I wanted to see how fast I could heat it up, and both in the bisque stage and in the glazing stage without this thing busting all to pieces. So I stuck it in the little kiln I just showed you a while ago and fired it to 1830 degrees, just as fast as I could fire it. It took less than an hour actually to reach that temperature, and then I cut it off and cooled it as quickly as I could, and it all came out fine. And that's just some glaze that I kind of thought I'd stick on that one. But here is our coffee cup, which is what all this is about, and it came out pretty good. I've got some issues with it here that where I didn't clean the glaze off, the clay off real good before I fired it, and there was some dust, and when you get in a hurry like this, that's what happens. But all in all, it came out pretty good. Okay, so that basically says, hey, you can make these coffee cups in that mold, and you can make them all just alike, and life is sweet. Then somebody's going to come up with a bright idea, says, well, Mike, how do you get the handles just alike every time? And they got a point. Handles are the hardest part I have, but I came up with something. Now, I didn't do it on this one. I just rolled this one out, stuck it on there, and that's what I've got. But in the meantime, I cast another coffee cup. This one hasn't been fired yet. It's still green. And but I did try to standardize what I could do with the handle. And here's what I come up with. You may have a better idea. But I took a couple of coffee cups and decided which handle I liked best, okay? And this was a bigger one, so I took it. It would be just a little easier to work with. And I took a plaster bat, like this, just a piece of plaster about a ½ inch thick. You can do what I'm fixing to show you using wood, using styrofoam, using foam rubber. This will all work. I used the plaster because it cuts real easy on my scroll saw, and it will also cut real easy with a coping saw if that's all you have to do what I'm fixing to show you. I took, and as you can see, I traced the inside of the coffee cup handle on here, both of them. And I only cut out this one, okay, the biggest one. I just went ahead and cut out the inside. The inside, that's what I traced, because that's what we want to do. And then I took some clay, and you can either, depends on how you want to do it. This one here was just a round one, okay? In fact, we'll use this round one for that, but I think there's enough of it there. I've got a square one too, and you can pull it any way you want to, like they teach you in ceramics class, and do whatever you want to do with it. But we're not going to do that. We're going to take this sort of, almost, kind of round one, okay? I just made a snake out of it. Remember when you was a young'un and you used to make it clay and stuff like that and make snakes out of them? Well, okay, that's what I did. Now, what you do is you take this little jewel right here and you just wrap it around it. Just like this, all the way around. See? Like that. Then you take your knife and you cut it using the back side, right there, and you just cut them both off flush. It's as simple as that. You can duplicate that every single time. Just make your masterpiece whatever shape you want to start with. That's going to give you one of these every time. And I have another little cup here. And I think I went over this a little earlier in the video. I have a habit of repeating myself, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to take and scratch our cup where we think that our handle is going to be, okay? With our nifty little scraper that we made out of a razor handle. Got a video on that, I mentioned it. We'll take our slip mix, which is just kind of thickish clay. Slop some on there real quick. This video's gone longer than I wanted it to. I can't help it. I just can't do anything about it. It just seems like no matter what I do, the videos are going to go over what I want them to go over. Holding this just like this, you'll go ahead and place it on your cup. Just kind of remember how much room you've got here and down here. Place it on your cup. Take your little piece out and then slowly just kind of mash it in, okay? Mash that slip in and let it sit. And now, a lot of times it won't be straight. You'll have to kind of straighten it. And what I do to make sure this thing goes on there straight is I have these couple of pieces of wood right here. Actually, it's a half-inch piece and kind of a 3/4 inch piece, but you'll have to decide what thickness you want. And then you'll take your coffee cup and you'll just kind of slide it up against them, sort of like that, and it'll lay flat. You see how that is? Can you see that? It lays flat and it kind of lines up. And that doesn't have to be exactly where you want it, but that's going to keep it in place until it hardens enough that you can pick it up and it's not going to wobbly all over the place. Then you can kind of some minor adjustments. You can add some more slip to it like this, and then kind of brush it out, sand it out, clean it out with your fingers, whatever you want to do, and you will have your handle just exactly like the last one you've done. And your coffee cups are going to be the same size because you're pouring slip into a mold that I showed you how to make. And there you go. You will end up with coffee cups as close as I can make them to being just alike. And of course you can make different coffee cups out of different size molds like I showed you or mentioned, and different handles. It's just kind of whatever makes you happy. So that's it. That's about all I'm going to say on this little thing right here because I've taken it way too far. And I hope that it's useful. I hope that it not only teaches you how to make a coffee cup mold, but you can use that for bowl molds, all kinds of things. You just let your brain run amok and decide what you really want to do with the plaster and your molds. But coffee cups is what this is about, and coffee cups is what we have. So I'm Captain Mike. That's my tutorial on how to make coffee cups just alike using a slip mold. I'm out of here.